Hey guys, and welcome to the RocketJump Film School podcast Office Hours. And today we're going to sit down with Jon, Karmen, and Jake Andrews, who are the creators of the Rubydog channel and This Week at RocketJump. And they've done a bunch of different fun, crazy, weird shorts for us. And we're just going to talk about how they got started, some of their old work, and how they created This Week at RocketJump. And just fair warning, we talk about some weird things. So if you're a little queasy, maybe not. Maybe, be careful. So let's get into it.
RocketJump Film School, Scene 1, Apple, Take 1, Mark.
All right, hey guys, and welcome to Office Hours, the RocketJump Film School podcast. And today we are talking to the creative team behind Rubydog and This Week at RocketJump. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
Hey, I'm Jake, and I work on This Week at RocketJump, co-member of Rubydog.
Hey, I'm Jon. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
This is Jon.
Yeah,
Jon Karmen.
just Jon.
Hashtag Jon Karmen.
Yeah.
If you guys want to live tweet this podcast, just hashtag Jon Karmen. So,
Jon Karmen without an H and with a K.
Yeah. Let's be correct about this.
Sure. So, you were actually, Jon, you were telling me a fun story about how you guys actually first met up and started making movies. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure.
Yeah?
It's like weird. We were like, both of our families happened to be, like, we sat at the same lunch table, but we didn't ever talk to each other.
This was high school?
Middle school.
Middle school.
Yeah. And then both of our families were vacationing in Santa Monica, coincidentally. This is so like we went to school in Westport, Connecticut, but then our families were vacationing in Santa Monica, and then like we just like ran into each other in the street, and we're like, oh hey, like I kind of know you. We sat at the same lunch table. It's weird that we ran into each other, and so we started hanging out. And I think Bad Boys 2 had just come out, so we were just like, how sweet was that bad guy death at the end of Bad Boys 2? He gets shot in the head, and then he falls into a landmine. Like that's like the coolest thing we'd ever seen. So we didn't. Because we both agreed on that.
We saw the second Tomb Raider film together.
Yeah.
In theaters, and
It's our air conditioner.
we both thought it wasn't very good, and the rest is history.
You bonded over a movie you both loved and the movie you both hated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And your best friends.
Yeah, we're like, all right, we got pretty good taste.
All right, yeah.
We're both little film snobs. This is perfect. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you guys, like, we have a lot of listeners who are kind of in the same position, like younger high school students or just getting out of high school. Like, how did you guys start making movies, and what started shaping your sensibilities? What was the first project you made together?
It was
Oh, God.
Delivery Boy.
Oh, God.
What's
Delivery Boy. Of course, it was a gangster film.
obviously
And I hadn't gone
Co-starring Jake and I. 'Cause,
Yeah.
like, we didn't have any friends, pretty much.
yeah.
Or we had some, but like, it was pretty much the other kids that at our lunch table that started it.
Yeah. Yeah, this is me before I went through puberty, too. Very high voice. I was a gangster.
There's a scene where Jake like ambushes me or whatever and like steals my stuff. And literally because we had no friends, I'm holding the camera selfie style, playing myself as Jake like sneaks up behind me
And
robs me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there was another scene where we basically recreated the torture scene in Reservoir Dogs.
Oh my God.
Where I'm getting tortured.
Oh, yeah.
And we had like, there's a scene where like the guy who's torturing me goes up to like the radio, and there's a DVD copy of Reservoir Dogs like right
That's
next
what
to
we
it.
thought homage meant.
Yeah. We'll do an homage to Quentin by having the DVD to Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah.
So yeah, needless to say, it was awesome.
And
The movie was great.
he slices and dices Jake while he's alive, set to like cool techno music. Like, yeah. It was pretty.
We were jazzed on it though, and then we had another like the
Oh,
big
wait,
bad
and
guy
the-
death gets his brains blown out.
The main
and we
bad
threw
guy.
marinara
We wanted
sauce
the main bad
against
guy
the
to have
door.
a goatee, so we literally took a brown marker and we just drew a goatee. Well, we thought it was serious, though.
And we thought
Yeah.
it looked good too.
Yeah.
We're like,
We were
yeah,
yeah.
this is good. Let's make it.
Until we saw it in a close up on film, and then we were like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and the salsa was, guys. Did you mention that?
Yeah.
My mom was like really nervous.
We had to
were gonna
put
throw
saran
salsa
wrap
around.
on the door
Yeah,
before we could throw salsa at it.
Was it salsa or was it marinara?
it was salsa.
It was
Was
salsa.
salsa?
Chunky salsa.
Chunky.
Didn't really splatter well. It just kind of like hit one little ball.
Oh.
Yeah.
But yeah, we made that, and we learned. I know every time you make a big project, you learn from your mistakes and you improve. A lot of failure.
But it was like we were doing stuff. This is pre-YouTube, and then we just kept making videos together. And then like around in between sophomore and junior year of high school, YouTube first came out, and so we were already, there were like smaller sites that would let you upload stuff, but never to like that. There's never anything that mainstream. So after YouTube came out, it gave us like an outlet to really like show stuff to a lot of people, and it ended up, we kind of got a little famous in our high school because we were like one of the first people to like ever kind of like use YouTube to regularly, and that's like how we kind of like made connections in our high school because people had saw our videos and wanted to be in them or help out or whatever.
Mm-hmm. So one of the big questions we get with people just starting out, you mentioned that you guys didn't have any other friends to make movies.
Nothing's changed.
Yeah. Kevin, you're my friend. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on, Kevin.
Okay.
You're
You don't have to confirm or deny that.
Sure.
That's fine. Oh, jeez.
Kevin, you're my one friend, right? I mean,
Sometimes.
Leave.
How did you guys get a crew together? How did you? And then I know you eventually did that huge project that involved almost your entire school.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like how did you
Our
start
first
getting?
feature film.
Yeah.
It was really the crew. It's literally the crew has
Skeleton
not
crew.
changed since, like, I mean, like if there's a budget involved, then I can have a crew. But if not, like this week at RocketJump barely operates on a budget, So unless like it's like Ball Pit was an exception because, they
Or
were
like Laser War. There was a budget on that, right?
Yeah, but I mean even that was just like barely, and there's like 90% of Laser War is just carried through on favors or whatever.
Yeah.
But
What's your crew look like right now? Usually.
it's literally just me with a shotgun mic mounted on top of a camera,
Then he'll tell me to do stuff for him.
Yeah.
Like,
Jacob's-
hold this light.
Yeah.
Be
Yeah.
still.
Act.
Shut up.
Yeah,
Stuff like that.
exactly. So yeah, I mean, having crew is nice, but yeah, most of the time it's just I'm trying to do like as many roles as possible at once.
Have you gotten to work with a larger crew before?
Yeah, like on Ball Pit.
Mm-hmm.
That was definitely the first. Like, I'm pretty sure that was the first time I had like a major kind of crew, like producer and AD. And
That went well, too. You didn't have like a mental break.
Yeah, well, I mean, it helped because I think part of the part of my strategy was giving Freddie one of the biggest roles in it. So if I ever was like kind of screwing up, Freddie would just through sheer proximity have to help me out. You know what I mean? So that was nice to have him kind of catch me when I stumbled or whatever on that shoot.
What was the big difference between having a full crew and having like your usual just two-man team?
It definitely feels more like work. Like we have to get through this. There's way more people waiting on you. Whereas like if you're kind of like just shooting with your friends, you can kind of just like take your time and hang out, and it feels a little more like it just feels more like you're just hanging out with friends rather than you're at work.
Yeah.
In Ball Pit, it's like we had to wake up super early, and
That sucked.
we had to get like shoot like 6 pages a day or more than that. It was like 8 pages out. So yeah, it was just very, very demanding on everybody, so it definitely didn't have the same kind I mean, I prefer generally the laid back, tiny crew, tiny shoot thing. But yeah, if you need to get a lot done, you have to kind of do the more professional big crew thing.
Yeah. Well, and that was a big shoot too. It was a big short.
Yeah. I mean, it was insane. We had a whole team of people dedicated just to cleaning up the balls when we were finished shooting and stuff. Or even just like on standby to like rake the balls because like they would fluctuate in terms of the height and depth or whatever. So yeah, that was insane getting that much like, people to work with me on that.
That was awesome.
Yeah,
I think it came out really well.
It turned out.
Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite things that we got to work on for sure.
That's awesome. Can you tell me a little bit more about this week at RocketJump and getting to kind of form your own little show? And I know that's wrapping up pretty soon, right? Too.
Yeah. I think we only got like, when does this go up?
This is in like a couple weeks.
Okay.
Week or two.
So yeah, by the time it'll be like probably like 3 episodes left by the time you hear this. Yeah. So we're getting ready to bring the show to an end, and then create a new show. But yeah, so your original question was just kind of.
So what is this week at RocketJump and?
Well, yeah, it was essentially like they wanted second channel stuff, and they didn't really know what they wanted. They just kind of wanted me to think of something, and it's traditionally kind of documentary, kind of behind the scenes type stuff. So, and my background, I mean, I've done a little bit in documentary, but most of my experiences with shorts. So I was trying to kind of I was like, what if it kind of felt like a documentary, but then it would slowly become a short every time. So that was like the idea behind it. It was almost like, what if it was like almost like The Office, but with RocketJump, but it was like way crazier than The Office, and a lot of times it would become like a action film or whatever, horror film. So
anything with violence.
Yeah, that's my
violent.
forte. Yeah, anything that's gross or weird.
Bread and butter.
Yeah. So they were skeptical at first. They're like, really? I mean, like, people at RocketJump aren't really actors, but I was like, I know everybody at this point pretty well.
Right.
No. I hope not. I hope. No, I mean, I was like, I felt like.
Sure, I'm just gonna be mean.
Yeah.
You're a good guy.
No, it's like the roast of John. It feels like, right? But yeah. So, I felt like I kind of knew everyone well enough that I could like kind of play on their strengths, and if I cast them the right ways, it would it wouldn't feel too amateur hour. So I think we pulled it off. Got some good performances out of people.
Yeah.
Jamie in particular.
Yeah.
He became a little
Jamie
kind of
can
mini
act.
Tom Cruise.
Yeah. No, he's a big Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise is.
Tom Cruise
The
is the little
episode-
Tom Cruise.
Introducing Jamie is one of my favorite ones because you just build up this huge thing about this guy who sounds like this douche bro. And you're just like, who is this weirdo? And then you cut to that like really quiet, he's in his office and he's like, yeah, I just, crunch the numbers and make sure the lights stay on. I have to be an adult.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's really, that's the thing. It's like, it kind of makes him look crazy, and then it's like, wait, no, everyone he works with is kind of crazy. He kind of works with a bunch. I think the line he says is the only adult in an office filled with children, and that's fairly accurate, I would say.
I think Jamie's
Agree
the
with
grown
that.
up
Yeah, he dresses
Most of the
like
time.
the grown up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
most of the time.
More than me.
What would you say you guys have learned the most doing this week at RocketJump?
I don't know. I mean, just it's hard to pinpoint one thing. It just feels like practice makes perfect. Every time you make a new thing, you just kind of, get better at sound design or writing or whatever, and some are better than others, I think. And you kind of learn from the mistakes you make along the way. And yeah, I just think that's my general philosophy is everyone's just trying to, you just get better your whole life, you never stop. You never just get good and then plateau, every time you make something you get better.
Try to, at least.
Yeah.
Yep. So what would your advice be to young filmmakers who especially want to get into comedy? Because you guys do kind of this crazy, wacky comedy type feel, and that's extremely hard to do.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think definitely my advice would be to go out and just constantly be making stuff.
Yeah.
And failing a lot. Like, that's a huge part of it. Honing your craft. That's something that can be daunting to people. Like, being like, you're going to fail, and a lot of the stuff you're going to do is not going to be that good. And that's tough, to accept that. But once you do, yeah, you can start to make funny stuff, and also watch funny stuff all the time. There's a lot of great things on like Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
Watch that show if you want to watch that show.
Yeah.
If you like comedy, just watch it.
It helps to have like someone you're working with, and you're not just on your own though. Like Jake and I, we can like bounce ideas off each other. If we make each other laugh with an idea, then we know we're onto something.
Probably something.
But
there.
sometimes like the ideas that you think could be really funny, and then you pitch it, and then it like kind of just gets nothing. You're like, oh, okay, wait, that doesn't work as well as I originally thought. And if you don't have someone to bounce an idea off of, you could like, it could be too late before you find out that it wasn't a great joke or an idea, and so I would recommend, making friends. What I mean? That would be my advice,
Wow, what a put down.
Try to make friends.
Yeah, hopefully you have a friend that wants to do the same thing, and you have similar sense of humor, So that's pretty much what I would advise.
Find a friend.
Yeah.
Don't let them go.
But we can't tell you how because it's not Rocket Jump Friends.
Yeah. Friend school.
Oh God.
Well, we should make a new one.
Can we start that?
Rocket Jump Friend School?
How to get friends?
Legally, just a way for us to get sued.
I don't know. So, is there one like specific idea that you guys have been tossing around for a while that you still haven't been able to make? Is there like that one?
Well, there was one that I don't think we're gonna have time to make, but it was where Charles Barkley,
Yes.
probably the best actor at RocketJump.
The
I think
dog.
so,
The
by
dog.
far.
But
Dez's
we were gonna
dog.
do this thing where Dez finds out that he looks into like what two breeds came together to make Charles, and through that, like getting the blood work back and stuff, they realized that Charles has a father who like lives like outside of Burbank, and they would go and like visit Charles's dad, who is just gonna be Charles like wearing like a hat. And basically Charles would decide to live with his dad, and like it would be like Dez all depressed and like,
Oh no.
but I don't think we'll have time to make that one.
We are doing one though.
We are doing-
We won't spoil what it's about, but
It's Charles,
it is Charles
Dez.
and Dez centric.
Yeah. Yeah, and we didn't want to
Yeah.
do two Charles Dez.
Yeah, we
could
kind of-
we can make a
if you watch-
show with Charles and Dez.
You could.
Or just Charles. I mean, like, if you,
Just
pretty much
Charles.
this week Rocket Jump is just Charles Barkley. I mean, like anytime we run out of ideas or we just need like we just use that dog as a crutch because it's literally that's like the most easy dog to work with in the world. It's pretty cute.
He's so
funny
such
looking.
a good. He's really
Yeah.
good to work with.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another advice for people can look.
Dogs
If you have
can
a
be
cute,
friends, too.
If you have a cute
Yeah.
dog
You
that's
could-
easy to work
yeah.
with, just use that and you'll probably get successful in some manner on YouTube.
Just exploit a dog,
Yeah.
and you'll
And,
probably
yeah.
get famous.
Yeah. That's our only advice.
That's it.
really.
That's my
it.
advice.
That's good.
Buy a cute dog and
Yeah.
exploit it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Sounds ominous.
I mean, I've known someone who
Exploits dogs.
exploit. Yeah,
Oh God.
he would
That
he
word
would-
is correct, but it's so wrong.
He adopted a dog just so he could be
So
like
he could
walking.
film.
Like
Oh, yeah.
He imagined
will
that
not
like he
name
would just
names.
he'd be walking. He'd just be walking a dog, and some girl would be like, "Oh, it's such a cute dog. Like, here's my phone number." And so he adopted this adorable dog. And then when he realized that wasn't the case, and that women weren't just going to throw themselves at him,
He's like, I don't want this dog.
And he just gave it to our other friend who just became like they became inseparable. You know what I mean? And raised it all the way to its tragic death. But I won't get into that.
Was
Oh
it
my God,
tragic?
was it tragic
Was it a
death?
tragic death?
Oh, God.
It was. It died. I got hit by a car. But let's not
Oh my
dwell on
God.
that. It had a happy
Dog is
life.
dead.
That's the express Uber to heaven.
The dog was abandoned, and then it died. You know,
No. It had a happy. He had
Stop.
years of happiness with
like
like
a happy dog.
it was like through an act of extreme selfishness, someone got a best friend out of it. That
Yeah.
he and that dog were inseparable until it
Until it died.
killed
Until
by
they
a
were
car.
separated.
I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of this week at Rocket Jump, this podcast has turned into a weird morbid.
Yeah. Any morbid dog stories? I'm sure you've got plenty.
Oh no.
Tell us
No.
your
I
super sad dog story.
maybe this one's too much. Maybe I want.
Oh no, please.
No.
I had We're
Oh, okay. Well, afterwards.
I've got a crazy,
Off air. You got a crazy what?
a really terrible dog story. Do you want to hear it? Or we don't have to.
I think now our listeners now want to hear this crazy dog story.
Okay, so
Jake.
my social studies teacher in high school, he lived in somewhere in Asia for a few years, and he thought he was going to live there for a really long time with his family, so he thought like, well, I'm going to go and get my daughter a dog. And they went down to this market, and there's this group of puppies, and the little girl, his daughter, pointed to one of the puppies, and the guy literally, just like without batting an eye, this guy who had the dogs takes his puppy and smashes its brains in front of him and his daughter.
I'm so sorry, Lauren. Yeah.
So that's
That's the
Has
end of
his daughter
story.
ever recovered?
I don't know. He said she
I
was
would-
traumatized.
I would never recover.
It's because he was assuming they're going to eat it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That
Or
was
he's just
basically
a
my
psycho.
story. That was
Just
basically my
lost
story.
his mind that day.
But to put it into perspective, there's, of course, a ton of culturally ingrained resistance to the idea, but basically pigs are as smart as dogs.
Yeah,
We're done.
No,
Let's
and
move
they're
on.
cleaner as well.
They don't taste as good, or dogs don't taste as good. As
Well, have you ever
Well-
had a dog? Have you ever eaten dog?
We'll talk later.
oh, dude. Yes, I'm so excited.
This is derailed.
Can I kind of pose a question based on an observation?
Please.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great. I've noticed because I've done sound for a few episodes of this week.
Yeah.
And you guys have the most edit revisions out of like anybody, like where the cut just keeps mutating.
Yeah.
And I don't want to talk about that as you guys not knowing what you're doing, but just as a benefit. You know, like you were saying, it's great having a partner, someone to talk to about your ideas.
Yeah.
Because I feel like in general, creatively, your first idea is never going to be the version of it that works.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of these things we're saying, like it's good to like work with friends, this yada yada yada. It really just means the more you can test your idea along the way, I think the more you can kind of improve it. But I think editorially it's interesting because a lot of these shorts, you know, this week we'll have a lot of reshoots or a lot of tweaks made to it. And I think just if you have any thoughts on that, I think, you know, it like my perspective on it is like you shouldn't get too locked in. Like, okay, we shot the movie, it's done. Now we got to cut it. You should, you know, if you can, try to be flexible. But I'm just talking for Jon Karmen now.
No, no. I mean, I definitely appreciate how cool you are with the insane, because usually
I'm so drunk.
yeah. Usually it's just like you know, when you're supposed to lock the cut and you deliver for sound and that's it. And me, I'm just crazy nitpicker of my own stuff, and I'm constantly coming up with like new ways at the last second to like make things better. And so I'm giving Kevin just all these like this insane list of time codes of stuff that's like shifted or whatever. And you know, I feel like most sound people would just quit, but
Is that ever informed by the sound? Do you ever get a draft from me and it's like, oh, be good if we change the cut around that, or am I just getting?
No, I mean like the sound certainly like it sounds certainly like adds jokes that I didn't know were there. But yeah, it's mostly just like pacing things. It's like, oh, wait, this scene would work a little bit better if this moment was drawn out a bit more, or if this was shorter. Because you know you're constantly. It's like, especially with comedy stuff, like you just have to constantly be showing it to people, and you're just seeing. It's like when you're just editing on your own, you really don't. It's hard to really know how it's playing unless there are people in the room watching it, and then you can just kind of like instinctually tap into how well things really are working. You can just kind of just tell through people's reactions or the way they're watching it, you know.
What are you looking for when people are watching?
Well, beyond just like basically like laughing at
Yeah.
the right times, you can just tell. You know, sometimes they're like there'll be like like too long of a space between like a laugh, you know, and then maybe it'll just be like someone delivering exposition for a really long time, and people kind of start fidgeting a little bit. You can just I don't know. You can just tell. You can. I feel like with movies above anything, you know, you're having an experience, you know, and you can just tell how people are reacting to that experience. You know what I mean? It's like it's the closest thing, you know, art form to like having a dream or an actual, you know, moment in your life, and so you can just tell how people are reacting from a moment to moment basis, and you just gotta keep in mind. You just gotta have a good understanding of, people in general. I think to be a good filmmaker.
Yeah, I think that's just a good observation, off the process. But I feel like a lot of times when people start making films, and basically everyone's guilty of this, quote unquote, but it's like a lot of times people will shoot and then they edit, and then it's like my film's done and I'm super proud of it, but that's like their first super rough cut in a way. And I think something that you learn through experience probably is how much you need to be able to admit that I didn't make the perfect choice the first time, right?
Yeah,
and that's you were saying that earlier.
The script too, like that's very. I mean, I know people who spend like a year writing like their first draft. You'd be like, I'm done. Be like, no, dude, you've just started.
Yeah.
Like this is a first draft. Like good writing is rewriting. Like that's a big thing that I'm getting feedback.
Everything
evolves.
evolves.
That's huge.
Everything evolves.
Like step one is like write your draft.
Yeah.
Yeah, hating yourself is a really good tool in filmmaking.
Well,
constant self-doubt and just being like, this is terrible. I don't. This is not just being hard on yourself. Depression. It's just called common, but it's good.
But the thing is, no matter how good you are, it's always going to be bad at first. So you can't, as long as it doesn't cripple you. As long as it's like, I'm going to make it and it's going to suck at first, but,
You gotta make sure that, like, you have to separate yourself from a bad draft. It's like, if you write a bad draft, it doesn't mean you're a bad writer. It means you wrote a bad draft and that you can start making it better.
Yeah. I was actually just listening to an interview with the director of Menace to Society, which was like a huge hit in the 90s. But he said, like, when he saw like the first rough cut, he would just, the tears would be rolling down his face because of just how bad it was to him and how much he hated it, So it's like he didn't know in that moment it would go on to be like this like cultural landmark film, He just saw, all he saw was just like this, oh my God, I wasted like over a year of my life making this terrible thing, and you just kind of have to learn to accept that it's just going to be terrible when you first watch it, I mean, same goes for Ball Pit. That was such a mess, trying to wrangle that edit, luckily it's also a really tough to edit your own stuff too, especially if you wrote and directed it and then you're editing it too. You're just kind of, that's what sometimes it's really great to have. If you can have someone else edit your stuff, that's sometimes really great because, I mean, I edit my own stuff out of necessity, but like on Ball Pit, since we had like a bigger budget and more time to really make it great, like I did like the first rough draft and I hated it, and then I had Freddie kind of take the reins and watched him, really kind of spruce it up and take it to the next level, and and he, because he wasn't as attached to the material as I was, so he could just kind of like make it sing.
Yeah, and like what people might not know is, of course, there were probably dozens of versions of Ball Pit before the release version came around. And by the time, we got near the end of it, there were reshoots. There were scenes that were reshot. There were some scenes that were shot later just out of necessity. Yeah. There was stuff that was cut that really helped. Like, because at one point I was in Ball Pit, and then that montage, and like I'm glad that's gone because I think that improved it. But I feel like whenever you have to, come down and be hard on yourself and reshoot or re-edit, that's not like you failed the process. That is the process.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That does mean you're doing it right.
Yeah. And even when it's done and you feel like, okay, this is great, it's finally finished, and you release it and everything, there are certain scenarios or just films I've made where it's like I just spent so much time making it as perfect as I could, and then when I watch it when it's done, I'm like, man, this still could use a lot of work, and it's never done, and it's sometimes like I tend to sometimes be a perfectionist or on stuff, and you just kind of gotta learn to live with the fact that, like, good is good enough, and just kind of move on. Don't dwell.
A finished movie is better than a perfect unfinished movie.
Yeah,
definitely.
Movies are never done, but this podcast is.
Yeah. Oh, we do.
Yeah, we gotta.
We got the signal.
We're gonna wrap it.
Got the hand signal over here.
Are we gonna have to cut the morbid dog stuff?
I don't know yet.
No.
Benji's like, no, we're gonna.
Tastes like lamb.
Well, are you all your early Rubydog movies still up online.
Yeah, viewer beware, especially
Yeah.
if you if you like dogs, you might see some upsetting stuff on our channel.
Yeah, there's a lot of really upset. Like,
We went through an esoteric college phase. We were just like,
Yeah.
let's see how far we can take this
That's
comedy
just a fancy
thing.
way for saying you murdered puppies.
Well,
No.
I haven't seen
yeah,
them
I don't
all
want to
at
go
one
into
time,
detail, but yeah, just beware. There's some really gross, crazy stuff on our channel.
Yeah. You guys are
Rubydog 189.
Yeah, Rubydog 189. One of the things we're hoping to do possibly with Rocket Jump Film School is actually have like a week where we show all of our old student films, like different people in Rocket Jump. So we might do something like that.
Rashomon.
Rashomon 2, dude. Oh my god. No, that's a masterpiece. I don't care what anybody says.
I am now super interested
Yeah.
in
Oh,
this,
God.
but we gotta wrap it up.
Yeah.
So thanks, Jon and Jake, for coming and just talking
Thanks
about
for
yourselves
having
welcome.
us.
Thanks.
for a little bit. And yeah, we'll catch you guys next time.
Bye.